amazing. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I was just smiling over here. How did that make you feel? Like, were you just like... I was amazed.
Beautiful.
I'm like, I don't know what to say next. Anybody want to talk? Thank you, Rod. That was just so wonderful.
Glad to be here with you.
Yes, God, yeah. And what are we here to do? We're here to create a movement grounded in love and kindness that transforms us, our community, and the world. That's what we're here to do. See, y'all know that. Let's say it again together. Don't you love today's card?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't be discouraged. Because we can be discouraged sometimes, can't we? By a lot of things. In our close life, in the government, in the world. You know, there was just a climate summit over in the Mideast somewhere, I can't remember where. You know, they all made these promises for us that we would reduce our emissions, and basically everybody's ignoring it. You know, so it's discouraging sometimes. But at the same time, we got to believe in possibilities, because that's the experience I want in my life. Is that what you want in your life? Do you want to have that experience? That's what I want. Yeah. So let's pray about that, huh? Roger, give us a little background here. Let's just take a deep breath in and know that no matter what's in front of me, no matter what it is, I was talking to my sister Barbara, we are still dealing with the after effects of being sick, waking up in the middle of the night coughing and hacking, even in the midst of that, to know that it's possible for me to heal. It's possible for me to know ease and grace. It's possible for me to know what abundance feels like. It's possible for the world, in an instant really, to shift from greed and power into possibility and love. And it all starts with me. In my heart, in my mind, to vibrate exactly what I want. And to know that there's a greater power in me and through me that makes it all possible. For this, I say for all of us, we are truly grateful, and so it is. Amen.
I am a pilgrim and a stranger, just traveling through this wearisome land. I've got a home in that yonder city could hold, and it's not made by hand. I've got a mother, a sister and a brother who've done gone home to that yonder shore. And I know one fine day I'm gonna see them good Lord, and there will be joy forevermore.
Well, here's the soul card. Here's the card. Phew. Today, you'll have to forgive me if I'm going off the rails today. Something is happening. Not sure what. This one doesn't have a name on. These are the cards we filled out back in August when we first came here, because I wanted to ask you these questions. What do you want Soul Center to be in your life and for others? And this person said, I want to be myself, to grow deeper in the natural spirit, to welcome others. All right? How do you want it to feel? Natural. How will you bless this space to pray for this community? How nice, yeah? How nice. Natural. That's interesting, because I'm going to talk a little bit about natural as part of my talk today. And you know, it's a little bit different today because I've been talking about Arjuna and the Bhagavad Gita for like 5 weeks. And now I feel like I've set the bar really high. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about today. And maybe that's why I'm fumbling around and don't know what month it is. But I thought, well, it's Thanksgiving this week, so maybe I'll talk a little bit something about that. And one of the first things that I did when I thought about that was, you know, what is it really about? Like, when I was in school and I was taught about Thanksgiving, I was taught probably in 4th or 5th grade history. You know how long ago that was? Right? Like eons ago, like a long time ago. And really what we've been learning more recently, I think, as a culture is how sanitized our history has been. How sanitized our history has been, that we believed what was written in this book because we learned it in school and we thought that was the start and the end. And it just hasn't been the truth. Hasn't been the whole truth. There's been truth in it. It just hasn't been the whole truth. Like we really thought, and maybe you thought, I thought when I was growing up, that the first time that Europeans came to the United States, they landed on Plymouth Rock, they came on to the land, and the Indians were like, so glad you're here, let's have a meal. You know, thanks for coming, rescuing us from this god-awful life we have, and thank goodness you're here to save us from all this. Well, you know, that's not really what happened. You know, the Native Americans were here for more than 12,000 years. And actually, when that ship landed on Plymouth Rock, there were actually some people in the tribe, and the tribe was called the Wampanoags. The Wampanoags were the tribe that was here. And there were actually a few people in that tribe who spoke English. You say, well, how could that be? Because the Europeans had been sailing across the Atlantic and scavenging people as slaves and taking them back to Europe as slaves. And these people had actually made the trip over and back. So they knew who it was that was landing at Plymouth Rock. Yeah, you didn't were taught that piece, were you? By the way, I got this information from an article in Smithsonian Magazine, so I think it's a pretty good source. You know? That's what happened. It's like, oh, that wasn't the first time. There have been plenty of times. Plenty of times. In fact, centuries. When Europeans have been coming and kidnapping Native American peoples to take back to work as slaves back in their home countries. So that's how they were able to communicate, actually. And the Wampanoags, you know, were actually in a kind of a conflict with another American tribe called let me tell you, the Narragansetts. The Narragansetts. That's who was here. And the chief of the Wampanoags, his name was Osamoquin. Osamoquin. And Osamoquin decided, you know what? Maybe it would be to our benefit if we hooked up with these colonists against the Narragansetts, okay? And that way, you know, we'd be better off if we did that. Well, a lot of people in the tribe were like, no, you know, that doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't even make any sense. Some of the Wampanoags were saying, let's make an alliance with the Narragansetts instead and get rid of these English people. They've been raiding our coast for centuries, enslaving our people, carrying them off to unknown fates. They can't be trusted. But no, that's not what happened. You know, instead, they formed an alliance with the colonists. But was it really an alliance? No. See, you're catching on already, right? No, it wasn't an alliance. But the tribe, why can't I remember these words? The Wampanoags were intent on teaching the colonists too about their way of life because they wanted to join forces, right? They wanted to join forces and make it work. And one of the ways they did was the settlers were buying land from them. Okay, they were going to buy some land. They were trading things that the native tribes didn't have, right? So they were buying some land. But the way that the Europeans thought about buying land and the way the Native Americans thought about buying land were two totally different things. In Native American culture, buying land meant you decided that you could be the steward of this for the community. The European outlook was, this is now the property line and this is mine, stay off. Okay, so two different ways of thinking. So here they are thinking they're forming this alliance, and it didn't really work that way. Because they didn't understand that there was a different concept of land ownership in the European way of thinking versus the Native American way of thinking. What happened? King Philip's War. Bloody. A bloody war. A bloody war. So when the Native American population that is left in the United States, by God, how, I don't know, thinks about our celebration of Thanksgiving, they are extremely sad. They are extremely sad. It is not a thing to celebrate. This overtaking, this myth that somehow these European colonists came here to save the day, freedom of religion, got out from under their own king, and now they're going to make everything good for everybody. No, that's not the way it happened. So it's a sad day. It's a very sad day. It is not, it's a day of mourning for a loss of their culture, of their way of living 12,000 years. So it didn't happen at Plymouth Rock. There probably wasn't even a turkey. You know, it happened later. In fact, on October 3rd, 1863, Abe Lincoln is the one who wrote the proclamation for Thanksgiving. It had nothing to do with Plymouth Rock and the Pilgrims Landing. Nothing to do with that. It was in the midst of the Civil War. And he was talking in his proclamation about the gratefulness that we should have. This is one of the things it says in the proclamation. It says, "No human hath devised, nor hath mortal hand worked to get these great things. They are gifts from the Most High." So he was trying to, that's what the holiday was about. And that's really what we celebrate, or what we might celebrate. All right, there's all this history that maybe we didn't know, and certainly I only touched for 5 minutes on it. You know, hopefully I got most of the details right. We have Google now, so you can do your own research easily. You don't need the Encyclopedia Britannica like when I was growing up that was sanitized, like so many things. But we don't have to judge ourselves with that. We just have to say, now I know better. There's more to the story than I was told. And now it's our responsibility to educate ourselves enough to understand that a little bit, right? We're adults. You know, should we really be dressing up our kids in little cowboy, Indian and pilgrim outfits and saying this is the way it worked? Maybe that's something to think about. You know, should our grandchildren really know a little bit more about the story? Are we the ones that are going to say, listen, it's time to know a bigger story here? Maybe so. Maybe so. Because it was a myth. It is a myth. And we don't have to keep living it. But the basic intention of this week of feeling gratitude, I think, is accurate. Right? All the cultures across time have practiced gratitude. The Native Americans practiced gratitude and still do to this day, for all sorts of things related to the land. The way, and I don't know much about Native American history, so I apologize for not having done any research to share with you on that, or to educate myself more. But certainly, the holiness of land. When they harvest crops, when they go out to pick blueberries off a bush, they don't just try to get the most in their pail. You know, they're practicing gratitude as they harvest, because they know, you know what? They did nothing. We do nothing to benefit from the blueberry growing a blueberry. We had no control and no effort did we make. None. And that's the practice of gratitude, right? The pilgrims, those who landed here, the Europeans who were here, practiced gratitude. They did. They practiced gratefulness for having made the trip. Have you seen the boat downtown? The Christopher Columbus kind of boat going across the Atlantic? Do you have the Windy app on your phone? You should get the Windy app on your phone and look how much wind happens in swirling red and, hurricane winds over the Atlantic. Like, how did those boats even make it? They were grateful when they got here. Beat up many times. Some didn't make it. There was a lot of practice of gratitude. So I think this season, even if we have got the history incomplete previous to now, the idea of being grateful is still there. And cross-cultural. It's a cross-cultural phenomenon. For all those things. For safe passage. I can't imagine kissing the ground, coming across the Atlantic in a wooden ship. I think I would have stayed in Europe. Man, I'd be like, y'all go, I'll be here. That fear. But I've decided a few things about gratefulness. For instance, I've decided that gratefulness really is about being in awe of life. It's not something you do, like write a thank you card. Although that's good, I think that should be brought back, by the way. Like, not a text or an email, but like a card with a stamp on it. I think a generation from now, you'll say to a kid, "Do you know what a stamp is?" They're like, no, don't know. But we do those things because we are grateful. That's not grateful. That we do those things because we are grateful, because that is a way of being, not doing. And because we are that way, and we can be that way, we might act this way. But gratefulness is not an action. Gratefulness is a feeling. Gratefulness happens in me. It's being in awe of life regardless of what happens. Like I said, a blueberry bush or a flower. Like, there is nothing we do that we can take credit for that happens. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, so that's what I'm talking about, is like walking around as a grateful human being. Are you one of those? Do you know anybody? Are you perfect at it? Do you practice it? Yeah, maybe. But like, not for when things happen. Like, I know in this gratitude circle, and we'll show up and say, "I'm so grateful for my family." I'm like, okay, you're grateful. Like, I'm talking about being grateful no matter what. That's what it's about. I really decided that this being way, the beingness of it, is really a soul attribute. It's the way our soul is. And we have a lot of attributes, I believe soul attributes. This gratefulness. Like, where does that grateful come from? Grateful comes from my natural way of being. See how that natural was on that card? That natural way of being. That's in our nature, in our spiritual nature, to feel gratefulness. And I think to really feel gratefulness, there's another attribute that goes right along with it. And that is the attribute of humility. That is the attribute of humility. Because there are so many things in this life that we experience that we have done nothing to deserve. We have done nothing to deserve. It's simply life. That's what I think. That humility, born out of this idea that we really don't have to do anything to feel that way. So it reminded me of this scripture that I use often. This page is almost worn through in my Bible. It's Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, where Jesus is talking and he says, here's what I'm going to tell you. Don't worry about your life. What you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. Because here's the thing. Can any of you, by worrying, add an hour to your lifespan? Can any of you, by just existing now, change your height? The size of your nose or ears? The length of your toes or fingers? Can any of you do any of that? I can't do that. I'd change a few things. I was going to say hair, but hair's off limits. You can change the color of your hair. not for real. The wrinkles on your face, the colors of your eyes. Who can change any of that? The fact that you got a disease, that you didn't get a disease, that you healed from the disease. Who can control that stuff? Nobody. None of us can. None of us can do that. You say, what? Well, Paula, you know, but I work at what I do. I can make this, you know. I have an aptitude for this. Well, where'd your aptitude come from? Where did Raj's aptitude to do this come from? He can say, well, I worked at it really hard. Well, you did, but it was there to begin with. He did nothing to deserve it. He knows that. He knows that. He's simply using what he was given. And yes, is he working on it? Well, yes, you don't do that just by showing up. Or do you? How about this? How do you explain a child prodigy? Here's an example. American genius Gregory Smith, born in 1990. He could memorize and recite books by the time he was 14 months old. And he could add sums of numbers by 18 months. He went from 2nd to 8th grade in 1 year, and he began high school at the age of 7. Graduating with honors 2 years later. He entered Randolph-Macon College at 10 and majored in mathematics with minors in history and biology before pursuing his master's at the University of Virginia. As a preteen, he advocated children's rights throughout the world. He has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize at least 5 times. So what did he do for that? He was 14 months old. He didn't work for it. He didn't decide, I'm going to be a genius. Where did it come from? Where did that come from? What about a child savant? Or a savant? Here's an example of that. When Leslie Lemke was born prematurely, he had brain damage, cerebral palsy, and had to have his eyes surgically removed due to glaucoma. There's a start for you. When he was put up for adoption at 6 months old, May, a local nurse who was 52 with 5 children of her own, welcomed him into her family. When Leslie was 16, in the middle of the night, May woke up to music playing, thinking she had left the TV on. She went into the lounge room to turn it off, but found Leslie playing Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 flawlessly on the piano. He had heard it on TV earlier in the day. Brain damage, cerebral palsy, both eyes gone. Despite Leslie having no musical training, he began to play all styles of music, from ragtime to classical. All it took for Leslie to play a song perfectly was for him to hear the music once. Today, he's 70 years old. Where did it come from? Where does it come from? Yeah. And here's the thing, you think, well, that's the exception, right? That's the exception. That's them over there. I'm here to tell you, no, it isn't. Exactly what's in them is in you and me. It can't be any other way in my way of thinking. That same exact thing is in you. You don't, it's not about deserving it. You didn't have to work for it. You didn't have to make it happen. You simply have to recognize that there's a gift and then decide what to do with it. Took Leslie till he was 16. Till he realized that. You know. This other guy, Gregory, 14 months. How old are you? Before you realize what it is. The gift that you are. Inherent in you, without deserving or working for or any of that. Nothing. I'm saying that being grateful is about being in awe of that. Being in awe of life itself. Not because something happened to me. Not because my knee got better. Although I'm very grateful. But to walk around grateful is not to wait for something good to happen. It's already happened. You're already here. You already have that same thing. And so I've decided that gratefulness is that soul energy in me combined with that soul attribute of humility, and that is the invitation to walk around life like that all the time. All the time. All the time. Isn't that enough to be grateful for? To feel gratefulness? To feel humility? Doesn't it make you feel that way? It does me. It does me. We don't have to wait. We can feel that now. Yeah? And so as we go into this season, this week, yes, we can be grateful for gathering with family and friends. Yes, we can be grateful for the love that we have in our life, or the healing that we experienced, or all these things in the outer that we think somehow we made happen. But as Abe Lincoln said, not the way it really works. We didn't make it happen. We can be that soul that recognizes, and to feel that deep gratitude for being here at all. So let's take a few minutes to take that into consideration and meditation. And just take a deep breath in and out. And know that I don't have to deserve it. It has nothing to do with deserving. It is simply the gift that I am, the gift that you are. The greatest joy in our lives can be knowing that that's the truth. To feel what it feels like. To be grateful, which means to be supremely satisfied. Supremely satisfied. In awe. In awe. We can give ourselves that gift. We can look at every other living being and know that it's true for them also. Simply breathing in and breathing out for these few moments together. is each moment, for the gift of life is upon us, and thus the gift of divine love. Blessed is each breath, for through this we intertwine with the miracle of God. Blessed are we, for our hearts can feel an array of emotions and the magic of love. Blessed are we, for we can think and find resolution in times of distress. Blessed are we, for each part of our bodies, be it broken or not, is a part of God, and thus a divine gift. Blessed are we, for we have food to fuel us and shelter to shield us from harm. Blessed are we, for we have faith, which nourishes our souls. Blessed is each day, for we can rejoice in the wonders of our world. In deep gratitude we sit. Amen. So let's pray this way. Ready? May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. Amen. Till next time.